Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. So it's been a bit of a while since my last video. I apologize for that, but with COVID and all kinds of other things with work, I have not been able to update videos in probably about 8 months. So I just want to go through and finish up this rifle project. Now, in the time that's passed, we have had I think a couple versions of Substance Painter. So we're not running the same version we were in the old videos. And when I go to open my file, you're gonna get something like that. Tell you that the version that it was created in is older. The Substance Painter that we have now, you can paint over multiple UDIMs and whatnot. And we weren't using that workflow before, so we're using a more legacy workflow. I don't know if it's in here, but if you, for example, if we start a new project, you can use the legacy workflow, which is to convert UV tiles into individual texture sets, which is what we had initially. We didn't have this newer one that allows you to paint across the tile. So we're sort of using an old file in the new Substance. So we're going to have to work within those limitations. So just keep that in mind. Next projects that we do, we're going to use the newer system. So right now we have a single UDIM here. If you started a new project from scratch, you'd be able to see all the UDIMs, and then you could paint across them as needed. So we're still working with individual texture sets per UDIM, which is not the most efficient workflow anymore, but that's what we're going to stay with for right now. All right. So I have since created some alphas here for some of the markings on the magazine. That's where we were. These are not the most accurate as far as, the fonts are not the same because I don't have the fonts that these companies use, and really didn't want to spend the time to trace them out and do whatever. It all depends on if it's worth it to you. For me, this magazine is embedded inside. Let's see here. It's going to be embedded inside the rifle anyway. So, the parts where the little markings are. Let's see if we can get another. All that stuff is going to be inside the gun anyway. So I don't really care, and I don't want to spend a bunch of time that I don't have to spend. Okay, so I just did some quick stuff here just to make it easy. And then we're just going to stamp that on and basically call it done. So I will be honest with you, I have barely touched Substance in a while here, so I'm going to have to refresh myself a little bit, especially now that we have a newer version. So I think last when we left off, I had put in some of these details here. It looks like we're missing a little bit here. So we got to remember how we did that. So go in the alphas. All I need is basically just a horizontal line, I think. So, let's see what we got. Looks like there's some new alphas in here that weren't there before, which is kind of cool. Here we go. Here's some lines right here. So, let's see. I got to figure out where that's the plastic. What's this? There we go. So these here are my details. So let's see here. I'm going to what is it? So I've totally forgotten my shortcuts. It's a 5 and a 6. I want the orthographic view here. Actually, I think I was in the orthographic view. Yeah. And as I rotate, if I hold down Shift, it's going to snap to this angle so that I know that I'm perfectly flat. So now I got to get these lines to be sort of spaced out the same. So Control right click. And I'm just going to click on there and see what we get, which I didn't seem to get anything. So let's look at the properties for this layer. So this is just a standard paint layer, right? So I need to give it some height, and there we go, and then I can paint. So I'm going to undo that. I'm going to stretch this out to have this be more or less the same width. Actually, what I can do is probably just erase. So if I hit 2 on the keyboard, it's going to select the eraser. And I can erase that one there because it's just, I don't know why it was just a 1. I don't remember what I did, but no big deal. And now I need to go in here, and let's find where the stencil settings are. Here we go. So lines quantity, let's go down to, actually no, that's not what we want. Okay, so we have different settings here, the width, the quantity. Do I want? Okay. So more or less the same width there. What if I take it down to 1 line? That's not 1 line. There's 1 line. And let me see if I, yeah, there we go. So if you hold down, if you click and hold down Shift, or hold on. There we go. So I click first and then I hold Shift and drag. Now, for some reason, they're getting bigger. And a lot of times that might be because of the UVs, but I'm not really seeing anything major there. So let's go back F2. And we can adjust the spacing right here. So if I increase my spacing, you see it's going to be a long way before we get a second one. If I make it real small, they're just going to be sitting on top of each other. So now, unfortunately, because this is at an angle to the screen here, we're getting some weirdness. I don't remember what the spacing was. Okay, that's too close. So it's kind of a trial and error thing. Now, I'm also noticing that my lines here are a lot thicker than these lines here. So let's go back to, where is it? Maybe if I shrink them down so they're kind of that same thickness, and then increase their width. There we go. So again, we're getting that weird. So I might have to rotate this. I want this plane here to be as flat to me as possible. Now it's off axis from the natural planes, front, back, side, etc. So I have to play with it, and that looks terrible. And if I have to, I will do them one by one, because again, this is such a minor detail that I'm not gonna spend more time. How many do I have here? 5. Now I'm gonna try not to spend more time than I have to on something like this. So this one is gonna be less even, but you're probably not gonna notice it unless you're looking real close. That for me, that's good enough. Okay, so that's fine. We got to do the same on the front side here. So what I'm going to do, actually, because my silencer is right here, I'm going to just turn off the texture set right there. That way it's not in my way. So I'm going to start to rotate, hold down Shift to snap, and let's see if we can just try that again on this side. If I click, hold down Shift and drag. See, I'm not liking, I think. Okay, there we go. So you click once, hold down Shift, and click again. It's going to draw a bunch of lines. So that's the mistake I was making on the back. Now again here, spacing. I think there's too many. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So let's go with, just looking at my references, 5. So we need to up our spacing. Where is that? It's up further right here. So we're at 20. Let's go to 25. Click once, hold down Shift, click again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so we need to go up a little bit more. Let's go to 30. Click once, hold down Shift, click again. That's 5 now. Really close here and not much, so we want to try to center that. So I'm going to lower this down just a little bit. And there we go. Okay, so it's starting to come back to me now. So let's do the same thing again. Just click once, then hold down shift, click again. And we're using this symmetry line here, which is this button right here. So essentially it's doing it on both sides. I think so it is doing it on both sides. So technically all I needed was half of it, but this works too, so I'm just going to keep at it. Okay. And this bottom one only has 4. I'm looking at reference on my other screen. The bottom one only has 4 in here, so let's see if we'll get 4 if we just do it again. There we go. Okay, so that was easy enough. That was easy enough. Okay. So now we have those details there. Now, one other detail is we have this little grid pattern here. So just doing some research, I found out they call it a something matrix or other, dot matrix, meaning that you can take a marker and fill in different squares. So you can mark your magazines with numbers. I don't know. Seems like a waste of time to me. Rather than just take your marker and just write a number on there, you know, sit there and fill in these little squares. But that's, I guess, what that's for. Okay, so for that, again, I used an alpha. This one right here. So these are what these are down here. There's 4 of them. I just did it in Photoshop real quick because I wasn't getting good results trying to do it with the built-in substance tools. So that will work with that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this image and I'm going to drag it into Substance, just drag it right in here, and I'm going to tell it that I want that to come in as an alpha, and I want to import it to this project, I guess. So there it is right there. Okay, so we can use that to stamp on our details. Now, one thing, see if I can pull up some reference here that will illustrate this. So as you can see, just the sort of rectangular nature of this section here. With mine, it's not quite, as you can see, it's narrow. If you sort of trace out a rectangle here, see it's a little shorter on this side than this side. So there's a tapering that's going on there that probably shouldn't be there. So, I mean, there's a little bit there too, but not quite as much as mine here. So not a big deal. It's not as accurate as it probably should be, but we'll work with that. So again, I'm still in orthographic view here, so just rotate. So if you alt-click and rotate and then hold down shift, it'll snap there. So what I'm going to do is then, let's see here. So I'm going to use this alpha. See, right now if I click it, it goes in the alpha. I'm gonna instead drag it to the stencil. Say that's going to bring that up in here. Now I can still move around my magazine, but if I hold down S, I can rotate my stencil. So hold down S and left mouse will rotate, middle mouse will pan it, and right mouse will zoom it. So just like with navigation, except instead of Alt, it's S. Okay, so I'm going to just see where it is and just try to get it into position. Again, I'm checking with my reference, so that's a little too big there. And again, I don't want to spend too much time on this, just because, again, minor detail that probably is overkill at this point, but, you know, why not? So I'm just going to do the best I can here. Now the problem, of course, is that these being white, you'll see what happens here is that they pop out. Oops. They pop outward. And what we want is for them to actually go inward. Okay, so that's not going to work. So let's go in here and undo that. Now I gotta realign this thing here, so something like that. So what I'm gonna do here, and I just gotta remember here real quick, I want to reverse the, well, I guess I can just reverse the height, and yeah, that'll do it. Okay, so that's what we're gonna do here. Now my alpha, as you can see here, it's a square, because I removed, so it's not a big deal, but if you wanted something else, maybe a softer brush, you could plug it in the alpha. When the alpha has nothing in it, it gives you a hard square brush. But somewhere in here there's a circle brush with the soft fall off, if that's what you want. In this case it doesn't really matter, but just bear that in mind. So now where did it go here? There we go. So the height might be a little much there, so bring it up a little bit. Okay, so just go over it and make sure that you got it. And then if I go on the stencil and X out of that, you can see, because I had symmetry on, that it did it on both sides. Now this, for me, that's going to be good enough. I don't feel like I need to go much further than that. It gets the job done. Okay, this mag is not quite as accurate as I might like it to be anyway, so this will work. Okay, so that's that part. Now we got all kinds of markings in here, and I looked it up, got some images, close-ups and whatnot. Some of the logos I just couldn't find it. I really wasn't bothered enough to try to make them. I just didn't want to invest the time in that, so we'll do without them. Again, most of this is going to be inside of the rifle anyway, so again, it's just, I do want to be able to, if this is used in some kind of animation, I do want to be able to have the character eject the magazine from the rifle. So in those instances, I do want to have this visible. All right, so let's see here. So again, I'm going to go find that. There it is. My alpha maps here. And I'm going to put them in my stencil again. Okay. And so the big one here is this little, here, let's get something a little bit bigger. Let's set this to large and see if we can find a larger image. So you can see that there's that sort of bullet shape with the caliber name in there. And then on the other side, it's facing the other way, which is why I have two versions of this. Okay, so there's some markings there. So we're just going to do that real fast. Notice that this is indented inside of this rectangle. So we got to take that into account. We got to make that. But let's start with the caliber. Maybe this is a bit. There we go. The bullet shape here with the caliber inside. Let's go ahead and put that. So looking at how wide it is, there's also this groove right here, which is not modeled in. So I'd have to put that in. So you know what? Might as well just start with that, because it's going to give us an idea of the spacing for this logo here. So I'm going to put this in here. So for now, let's go ahead and get rid of the stencil. Excuse me. And just looking at this, it sort of goes up where it starts to curl, and it goes down a little bit here. So we can use that line shape again. Now there's this one here. Let's see, what does this one look like? It's a little too rounded. Oh, okay. There we go. We can set the hardness, but it's still kind of rounded. So let's use the other one that we had. Let's see, where is it now? Problem with these alphas here. We can filter them down. Lines, there we go. So there it is. We need one line, and we can now forget the shortcut for rotating. Wow, it's been a while here. There we go. Left mouse and control. And if you... Now, I do want it to be... And I actually need to make it shorter. There we go. So I do want it to be at a perfect number here. So 270 or so. Although I guess it doesn't. I guess it just has to line up with this. Now I can make my brush bigger. And then I can rotate it. Now the line is too wide there. So let's go ahead and drop the width. Although that's the... okay. That's the actual height of the line here. So, and I think we want it to be a little bit deeper. So to feel deeper, you can see that this groove is deeper than the indentation or the impression from the logo here. So what we're going to do is just go back up to, click here. Let's increase the height in the negative direction. Okay. And then let's go back here. Now we definitely don't want any bending. Okay. Don't think there's anything in here. The problem is my line. So width-wise, yeah, that probably feels a little bit better. So if I make my brush bigger, it's going to thicken the line to where it doesn't feel right. So I'm going to keep this kind of narrow. I might have to draw it in stages here. Sure, there's an easier way to do this, but it's not coming to me right now. So I want to see. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm looking for there, but it needs to be longer. And also, it's not quite aligned to the edge here very well. So let's just do a little bit of that. And I think I still want to make it deeper. And of course, this being just a height thing, it's an optical illusion. It's not actually digging into the surface, but it'll do. Yeah, I think I like that one. So again, I'm going to just rotate, hold down shift, and make it snap. And let's just something like that. I'm going to click there. See what happens if I click again. There we go. So, oops. That might work. Let's go with that for now. I think I modeled too much curve into this edge here. I think it's quite a bit straighter. Again, you know, it is what it is. So we're going to call that good. So now I can bring the height back down. And now we can put in this little logo thing here. All right, so let's go up to stencil. Let's go back in alphas. Now I got to find that. Or actually, you know what? I can go into project. There we go. So anytime you have stuff in your project, rather than trying to sort through all these alphas, trying to find your alpha, you can always just go into project and it should be in there. So I'm going to drag this on this stencil. And this top one is what we want here. So again, S and middle mouse drag. Now, and then right mouse or left mouse button to rotate. Right mouse button to scale. And middle mouse, right mouse. So let's see here. So I can actually increase, just zoom in on the magazine itself and then hold down S and make this bigger just so we can see it better. So you know, something of this nature right here. Okay, probably I'll move it down a little bit there. Okay, now I still have that weird alpha on there, so I'm gonna get rid of that and then shrink my brush down here. And that is seeming a little little deep there, so I'm going to undo that and go on my height here and drop this down. And I think I'm okay with that. Now, actually, one thing I forgot to do here is to turn off symmetry. So as you can see here, and to move the lighting, hold on shift and right click and drag. You can see that the writing is backwards, which is why we have this one here. So I actually have to go back and undo that, turn off symmetry, bring this back, and then draw this one in. Now it looks like I got a little bit of this guy here, so I'm just going to get my eraser and just erase that. There we go. Okay, so excuse me, that is that logo there. You know, it is feeling a little crooked there, so what I'm going to do is go back, undo, yep, and I'm going to hit S. I'm just going to rotate this a little. And let's do that. Rotate around, hold down shift to snap it. Now I'm going to try to keep things same size, not that you'll be able to really compare them. Oh, now I've rotated it. There we go. And let's see. You know what? I should. Let me undo that. Oops. Change the lighting around a little bit. Right there. Okay, so just to look at it here, we have our bullet. Okay. So the markings on the magazine, this marking here, there's a lot more on this side than the other side. As you can see, the other side has a bullet logo and then a couple little things here. So we're going to go back to this side and bring back that stencil. And then let's find that image again. So this is all inside of a sort of indented rectangle, both of these. So let's put that in, and then we can go from there. So actually right now what I need is some kind of rectangle alpha. So right there, it just happens to be one I have. I think it was for a caution sign, but there might be some built-in ones. So there's a square. I don't know if there's any settings to adjust that. So we got a square like that. There we go. Yeah, so you can mess with the size X and Y here. So I'm just winging it here, see what we get. So we want this to be just about as wide as that bullet. And let's rotate a little bit. So something like that. Now, again, I can go back in the height and bring this down so it's not so crazy. You know, something like that. I do notice that the little boxes here have rounded corners. So if we, I don't know if there's a rounded corner box. I don't think there's a setting for that. No, it doesn't look like it. So let's see if we can find a rounded corner alpha. Now again, these are ones like that one. There is one that I made. This one here is sort of a custom one. I don't want to. I'm going to try to use what's built in here for this, just so that if you're doing it, you have an option as well. Well, let's see. What is this one here? I know that it's kind of soft, but if we, whoa, set the hardness, yeah, that just becomes a. Okay, so we may have to just go with what we have and use a hard cornered box or sharp cornered box. But again, if you didn't want to go into Photoshop and just make it yourself real quick, you could do that. Okay, so I think we'll just go with the square. I think we'll just go with the sharp rectangle here, because I'm not seeing anything. Sign minus, that's a rectangular shape. Yeah, it doesn't have any settings to make it rounded. This one here has got a dash through it. And this one here is just, see, we have a round, okay, here we go. So border width, can we just take this down until it, oh no. So, yeah, we got that little square, but we could probably then erase that. Although the roundedness is a little, the radius is a little large there. So, again, I'm overcomplicating this. It's a very minor detail, so I'm just going to go with this, and let's adjust the size X to make this wider, or to make this shorter, and then we can just widen it by increasing the brush size. Something like that. Let's do it again. Just gonna maybe rotate it a hair. Something like that. And see, my angle is not very nice here, so let's see. You can see how the angle compared to this line here. I think it's a little tall, so let's make it even shorter. Okay, so, and again, symmetry is off because I don't want this happening on the other side. And then the one below it is a little bit taller, but we'll just, yeah, do something like that. Okay, so that's that part. I'm gonna go back in my project, drag this onto my stencil, get rid of that alpha, and now all this stuff here has to fit. So it's PMAG 30 ARM4, and then Magpul Industries Corp, and then the cage number. I should have organized those better in Photoshop, but no big deal. So what we need to do here is just hold down S and middle mouse drag to make them bigger. So this is a PMAG 10, but because it's a 10 round magazine, so but you can see it runs the width of that rectangle. So oops. Okay, so it's a little big, so S and right mouse button. So something like that. Okay, so let's shrink our brush, control right click, drag, and oh yeah, so because we're at this same level here, hey, you know what, I'm going to note this number down just because I may need to put things at that level again, so I'm just going to write this number down. So what is it? Negative 0.0611. Okay, so we need something deeper than that. So if we now do that, it's going to indent that. And then we need, what comes next? The Magpul Industries Corp. Again, you can see that this needs to run the width. So we can either just scale up our magazine. I find it easier to move the magazine than the stencil, just because I'm used to doing that. Just standard viewport navigation. Because now that the stencil is aligned, I really don't want to move it around or rotate it. So something like, give it a little room here, something like that. And then we want the cage number here. And same deal here, we're just going to make this fit a little bit better. Okay. Now, so what I'm seeing here is now we got this bit of space here. So I guess what we can do, and I should have probably done this before, is to just erase the border. Kind of needed it there to line everything up, but now that everything's in, I can now erase it and then make it the right size for that. So let's get rid of our stencil. Hit 2 on the keyboard to go into eraser. Control and drag. So I'm gonna leave the bottom one for right now. You know what? Here, let me think about this here for a second. So if I do this and erase this bottom, now obviously this line's not straight. So there's a little theory I'm going to work on here. So let's go back into here and go find our box again. Now we're going to have to get it back in shape. And control left mouse button to rotate. Trying to line up that edge. Oh, excuse me. Okay, so we're lined up. So now all I got to do is make this bigger. And I want to make sure I set my height to that number that we had before. So negative, oops, 0.0611. So my theory is that if I do it, if I now stamp it again, oh, you know what? Okay, so that's not going to work like I thought. I could just re-stamp everything. You know what I should have done was separated these out onto 2 separate layers. Okay, so let me think here. Let's just make a new, just as a test, I'm going to make a new layer. Yeah, that'll work. Okay, so again, I'm trying to get back into Substance after being away from it for quite a bit here. So that's kind of what you get. But okay, I mean that's working. And And what about, I'm going to go back to this layer here and just get my eraser. And I'm just going to erase this one here because what is it? Whoa. There we go. I'm just going to erase this one because now that I have this other one as a guide for the width of it, I should be okay. So I'm going to put the text stuff in this details layer, and then the box itself is going to go in that layer too. All right, so this is all the other stuff. So let's go back to project, and let's put I'm still in the eraser. There we go. So again, I'm just going to drag this into my stencil, and you can see it's still aligned, which is good. So this is what all this EN blah 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 patent blah blah. That's what goes in that second box. Now there's a little logo thing in here, which I didn't bother with. But obviously, if you wanted to be more accurate, you could put that in. So I'm not going to worry about that. I'm just going to do this stuff here. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to... Now, this stuff is not very big, so it doesn't go all the way to the other edge, so it's fine. Actually, oops. Control Y. So I actually want this to be a little bit deeper than that. Okay, then I'm going to go to layer 2 here. Let's get rid of this. And we're going to do that same negative 0.0611. And again, we're just going to... So I want this to be as wide as that one, but I want it to be shorter. It's kind of hard to tell, but it's a little bit longer, so let's measure this up again. Okay, so for me that's good enough. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but that'll work for me. So let's see what we got here. Let's go F5 to get out of orthographic, and F to frame up on it. Yeah, that looks good to me. Definitely not as accurate as I might like, but it'll work. So this side, let's find a reference. Oh, there was a good one for this side. Okay, so we got our bullet logo, which we've already put in there, and just a couple things in here. Now, I just realized I don't really have the little cutouts here to lock the magazine in. Suppose we could just put an indented square there, or rectangle. Detail like this is probably you're not gonna be able to get away with a bump map or a normal map to make that convincing. But we could just put in something there just so that there's something there. So let's go ahead and do that. And yeah, I'm just gonna use the same rectangle here, and I'm gonna hit F F6 for orthographic, and then shift and snap it. And so let's somewhere in here is where it is. I think this might be a little big. So we would need to go in pretty deep. Again, even if I take it way over here, it's only going to look so deep just because it's not actually cutting into the surface. So we'll just put that there. Maybe a little smaller. And we'll call that our little latch there. It's not great, but what are you going to do? And I think there's a section below that, which is popping out, which you can't really tell very well, but it is what it is. See if we have any in the hard surfaces. See if we have anything that might be a little bit more convincing. Ooh, maybe this guy. Let's see what else. Maybe this one. Now I gotta remind myself, how do we use these here? Do we put them in the alpha? Let's see. No, I can't put them there. Put them in a stencil. Maybe we'll just leave it. I gotta remember all that stuff. So anyway, so what do we have here in our project? If we go to stencil, we have one of these little, like, timestamp. I don't know exactly what you would call them. But there's actually, before we get to that one, there's actually a circle with a number in it. So it's just an indented circle with a number. And then we have that other thing. So let's start with that. Let's go in the alphas. Just find a circle. There's got to be a circle in here. See if I type in circle, shape circle where it looks like an oval. No squeeze. There we go. So how small do we want this? And we want our height to be in the negative. There we go. And then actually we want the same size circle for that little timestamp. So I'm gonna actually, you know what? I gotta load this here. So there, and then one right beneath it, right there. Okay, so then we can bring in our stencil. And this is going to sit right in the middle of here. And just so this is not straight up and down, usually they're at an angle, I'm going to take my stencil. Oh, wrong one. Anyway, and just rotate it. Just rotate it. There we go. And then put it back in here. And then I can adjust again here. Okay, and then we want our height to be in the positive. Yeah, there we go. Okay, it's a minor detail, but it's kind of cool. And then here, there's a number in there. Let's go with, I don't know, 22 or something. Let's look for one of our text alphas. Oops. And let's get that text and scroll up. Oh, usually there's a, maybe not that one. Usually you can get ones that you can change the, actually, I should look for font, not text, because the font ones are the ones you can actually adjust what's written. Unfortunately, Substance does limit how many fonts you have in here, which I don't quite understand why they would do that, but that's all right. So we'll just put a 22 in here. And then we're going to set our rotation. Something like that. And put that there. And then there's a little number above here. So for that, I think it was like 6, or I guess it doesn't really matter what number it is. But we'll put a 6. And actually, I'm going to lower the, you know what, let's go back. I think it's a little too heavy. So let's put our 22 back in here, but at a lower height. Still. And I've totally been doing it on the wrong layer, but that's all right. Here, let's put it in details. There we go. And then we want, say, number 6. There we go. So minor details that don't really get you anything, but they kind of do look cool. So yeah, we'll go with it. Okay, now our base plate. Now, unfortunately, the bottom side of this magazine is kind of hard to see here, but there are markings underneath here. Now, at this point, I don't want to spend too much time on this here, but I will put that little logo on there. This one up here. So let's rotate our stencil. And if you hold down Shift, you can snap it back to vertical. And oops, man, I'm still. There we go. See, I messed it up again. There. So I'm just going to put this here and then scale this up. So there we go. Something like that. I'm going to use my symmetry line here so that I get this centered. And I can turn off symmetry. Oh, and I got to get rid of my alpha here. Now it's popping out. I want it to go in, so we need to put this in a negative. Okay, and then let's go back in our alphas here and see if we can find this guy. And we want to turn up the, let's get rid of the stencil. We want the hardness to be pretty high. And we want the rotation to be at 0. Okay. And we want it to be pretty long. Again, I can turn on my symmetry line here just so that this is centered. And I think if I... Actually, I do want... well, yeah. I do want it to pop out a little bit. So... something like that. And I'm going to rotate this 90 and make it narrower. And let's adjust the length so I can make it shorter and fatter. And I want this one to go inward. Something like that. Now there's other markings here that you can do. I'm just going to leave it at this. It's not accurate at all, but for what I'm doing here, it should be okay. All right, so that's kind of our detail magazine there. Let's hit F5 to go in orthographic, to get out of orthographic, I should say. Excuse me. Sheesh. So that was pretty good. That's, you know, sitting on a table somewhere in a scene, that's going to be fine. It's not really made for super close-ups anyway, so we should be good. All right, so now that we kind of laid in our main details here now, like I said before, you know, people do different things with their magazines. They'll write their, you know, they'll number the magazines. So this could be number 5 or whatever, and we could do that. You got to think about if you're doing some kind of animation where the character has multiple magazines. Well, you want the same sort of base magazine, but then you might want different numbers. So you could have separate layers for each number and just export a texture with a different number for each separate magazine. And also you can dirty the thing up. So I think what I'm going to do is just add a little bit of dirt to it, and then call it good, so I'm not spending too long on it. So sort of the base details and the color of it are here. Now these mags come in all kinds of different colors. Obviously the black, blue, whatever. So some of them come in white. So again, all you'd have to do is change this color right here, and that would, so you would have the option to make multiple different colored magazines with different markings on them, with different dirt, because obviously they're not all going to be the same. For this, we're just going to stick with the 1 for now, but it's nice that in Substance you can do that. You can come in and make variations on the same thing, so that you're not using the exact same magazine texture for, you know, if you got a bunch of magazines sitting on a table, you don't want them looking exactly the same. So I'm going to get out of this folder here. Maybe I'm just going to, let's make a new folder up here for the dirt. And let's go to materials. So again, I'm trying to remind myself how I did some of these things before. So usually just for dirt, I'm going to start by putting in a coarse rust. Now, obviously, that's insanely crazy there. So what I'm going to do is just add a black mask to it. And then Let's see here. Now we could come in here and sort of hand paint some dirt in the crevices here. But I think what I'm going to do is just put a generator on it. Let's see what we get if we put a generator, the dirt generator on here. Oh crap! Okay, it's gonna save. Yeah. So remember to save. To save yourself. Don't let Substance auto save for you, because what's going to happen is, this is my magazine file here. It's going to make these auto saves, and it's going to make 2 of them. And this is my rifle file here. You see it's a 14 gigabyte file, and that auto save. And here's the original one. So the auto save is, so you're using double the hard drive space because of that. So if you don't save manually really frequently, Substance will start making auto saves. And each auto save is exactly the same size as the original file. So and it'll do up to 2 auto saves, I think, is what it does. So you'll have 3 times as much hard drive space being used. Now this one is only a gig, but I mean a gig is quite a bit here. So now that I've saved it, I can just select the auto saves and delete them, and make sure to get them out of your trash can too. So this rust is not looking great, but let's see what we can do with it. So maybe if I darken it a little bit to make it more dirt-like. See what happens if I decrease the cavities. I'm not really seeing much of a difference here. So let's decrease it. Let's go. See if we take off the height. Okay. What we can do is then also just drop the opacity. So the mag is dirty, but it's not. That noise isn't super crazy. Okay, just so that it's not just this perfect color. Okay, now you can take this as far as you want. I don't want to spend too much time here. See what else we got here. If I wanted to do like a, so let's do a fill layer. Let's make it like really dark gray, not all the way black. Just because some of these magazines, from being shoved in and out of a gun that's black, you might get some of that coming off on the magazine, especially if you got a light colored magazine. What do we need here? Don't really need any height. Maybe a little bit of metallic. Although typically metallic is either on or off, but we'll play with it a little bit here. And then the roughness. And it might not be the coating of the gun. It could be the oils and stuff inside of the gun, or the sort of the gunpowder fouling in there that's coming off. So typically that's not very glossy. So you want to up the roughness on that. And let's add a black mask again. Oops. And let's see if there's any generators we could use here. We don't really want too much of this. What's fiberglass edgeware? I don't think I've seen that one before. So I'm not seeing what it's doing here. So let's get rid of that. Add another generator. I'm trying to avoid hand painting stuff just because I'm trying to do this quickly. I know this is not really a metal edge thing, but some of this stuff up here is really nice. I would probably get rid of all the stuff down here because that's not typically where that is. But just where the magazine is inserted into the rifle, you tend to find some of that fouling there. Let's play with some of these. Grunge scale. grunge them out. See, now that doesn't look good because my scale's too high. So I'm kind of liking some of this here. Now, obviously, it's way, way, way too much. But let's see here. Maybe tone this down. And let's drop the opacity here. So we just kind of layered this noise here. And then what I might do is put a, let's right click on the mask and put a paint layer. And right now it's at 1, so anywhere where you paint 1, it's going to show that black texture. So if I hit X, it's going to set this as, or just drag this to 0. It's going to actually start to erase some of this stuff. So what I'm going to do is under brushes, I'm going to get my dirt brush. Now, if you've watched my other videos, you know I like the dirt brush. It's a nice sort of random brush. I'm going to erase, sort of click. I don't want to just completely decimate that detail. I just want to erase most of it. Because I want the mag to be dirty, but not too crazy. I want to leave some of the stuff up here. That's pretty nice. And if I want to, I can hit X again and add to it. Now you just got to be real. You don't want to overdo it. Hit X again. Notice when I hit X, my brush turns between white and black. When it's white, it means it's adding. When it's black, it's erasing. All right, so again, I don't want to spend too much time on this guy here. So I'm kind of liking how that looks. Oh, I still had symmetry on, so you got to be careful with that. It's easy to forget that it's on, and then you get this very symmetrical patterning on stuff. Hey, you could always switch dirt brushes. Let's put little blemishes here and there. I don't know. Let's name this layer, call it grease. We'll just call this folder dirt. So all the dirt stuff was on there. Or, I don't know, damage. Might want to put some scratches and stuff in there. Right now it's just looking at the surface itself. It's kind of still uniform. So let's see what we can do with that. I'm just going to put a standard paint layer on top of here. I don't need any color. Don't need any roughness. I don't need any metallic. And here I'm just going to see about putting some kind of scratches. So let's see if I remember correctly, we could do this with the smart masks. So stains, scratches, I think. Well, you know what, let's go back here. Let's put some color in here just to see here. Not seeing any. Let's see. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything going on here. Let's get rid of the mask for a second. Oh, right. So I messed up here. Instead of using a paint layer, I'm going to use a fill layer. And Yeah, don't need roughness, don't need any metallic. Let's put the stain scratches on. There we go. Okay, so now we're getting what I was looking for here. So you got some nice looking damage. It's a little crazy, of course. It's a little extreme. But let's see what happens if I come in here and remove my color. Still get my scratches. Oh, I gotta set the height. There we go. There we go. That's what I wanted. Okay, so you can see now we're putting some, this you gotta assume this magazine's been tossed around and, used quite a bit. So you want to keep it subtle. Don't overdo it. And if you want to, actually, you could keep the color on. Now, obviously, we don't want that white, but you could have a brighter version of this tan color, as if those edges are starting to sort of get worn away. So if I go here and sample, oops, oh, that's right, you got to drag it. Sample this, but then increase the value a little bit. You can see the effect we get. It just looks like this is as the magazine's wearing away, it's exposing much cleaner because this is being touched by my hands and whatnot. And then as that gets scraped away, it's exposing the cleaner stuff underneath. You could think of it that way. Let's drop saturation a little bit, maybe. Again, you don't want it to be glaring. Now, this mask is a little over the top anyway. So I can go in my mask editor. And so now it's going to be kind of hard to see. So I'm going to make this more of an extreme contrast here just so we can see better. Go in here, mask editor, decrease or increase our texture. Okay, we don't want it to be too crazy. If we decrease the curvature, see if the curvature is too high, you're going to get that metal edge wear thing going on here. And it's a little too uniform. Now you could always go in with an eraser and clear it out. But now our mag is starting to look like it's been through it a little bit. So now we can come back in here and resample this. Okay, so that's actually looking pretty good. Now, if you want, we could, again, maybe duplicate this layer. So Control D, make this color darker, just so that some of this dirt is actually getting into these scratches. And go in here in the mask editor for this guy. And just drop the curvature down so we're not getting as much there. And then we can come in and make a paint layer. So add paint. And again, add 1. It adds. So I'm going to hit X. And I'm just going to start erasing a little bit, so that we don't have it too crazy. We'll come in this grease layer here. Don't like that. Okay, you can also play with blending modes. So if you multiply, see how some of that stuff gets darker. So you can play with these and see what works for you. Overlay. You can screen it, although you lose all your dark values if you do that. And you can drop the opacity too. So you can play with it and decide which you prefer. Also, yeah, so if you invert it, it's going to do that. So we can do a random seed. I don't know if that's going to work very well here. Maybe not. Yeah, so, I mean, you know, there's all kinds of settings here you can play with to get what you want. So you can do that. I'm going back and forth between whether I like it or not. You know what? Let's change the mask. Here, let's use one of the other scratches. Let's see. Subtle scratches. Let's use that one. I put my actually this paint layer is probably not useful anymore, so we'll get rid of that. So let's see what this looks like. Yeah, I don't know if I like that one. So we'll just get rid of these. Surface worn. Oh, that's crazy. Okay, so, you know, experiment with these. Play with them and see what works for you. You never know. I've found things just by fooling around with these. Dust dirty. That's a little crazy. But you'll never know till you try. Yeah, I don't like that. So, edges scratched. That's nah. Stain the surface. Oof. Yeah, that is insane. That's a really dirty mag now. Edges. Did I already try this one? Yeah. So, you know, again, play with it. See what you like. See if I can go back to what it was before. Excuse me. So maybe something like this. So I do like that it puts some dirt inside of the scratches, which you would expect. But you can erase where you don't want it. X. And leave it in where you do. That way you got some variation between those two layers. Okay. All right, so I'm liking what that's looking like. Let's look at our, I don't remember if we finished our silence. I think we might have, yeah. So that guy's done. All right, so next thing what I want to do is then just take it into Maya and do some test renders, see what everything looks like. So we'll jump into Maya next.